itself is based on the memories of our past, the actions of our present, and the hopes of the future. Our memories are particularly important because they tell us who we are and where we are coming from. Now, from this comes the act of storytelling. Storytelling has been a beautiful tradition in Africa, in Nigeria, and indeed the Igbo land. From moonlight tales about our ancestors and our deities, like the Ndichie, the Kenga, the Chupu, the Allah, the female goddess. Storytelling is a part of us. Yet, as time passes, we run the risk of losing this part of ourselves, and we cannot let it happen because our identity and pride are embedded on the narratives we tell ourselves and the world. And this is what inspires my work. I'm a documentary filmmaker. I was born curious, and I've always been interested in the stories of my people, the Igbo people. As a little girl, I could sit at the feet of my great-grandmother and my grandfather and make them tell me stories. The more stories they would tell me, the more curious I get and the more questions I would ask. I suspect they were avoiding me at some point because I was always on their neck for answers, and they would tell me, "Watakelia, ijubugo onwegi." Let me tell you a bit about myself. I got married at the age of 21, had 3 children between 25 and 29, single again at 34. And life brought into sharp focus the realities of being a single mom. During the time I was married, I was a stay-at-home mom and a dutiful wife, never worked anywhere in my life. So it means that from birth till I was 34, I've had people taking care of me and my needs. Unbelievable. I lost it. I became scared because I suddenly felt like I had no value. I panicked because I had 3 children looking up to me to provide for them alone. I slipped into depression and I lost my confidence. Yet, in the midst of it all, and with a strong support from my family, especially my late dad and some close friends, I found myself. There had to be more to me, and this is how my search for answers and meaning started. I looked at myself and I realized that the value which I had in me was what I considered a disadvantage. The fact that I was a stay-at-home mom meant that I had added value to my family. Yes? The fact that I had never worked in a corporate environment did not mean I cannot work. Being a mom is a job after all. Do you agree? Yeah. You can ask any mom sitting next to you. So I decided to do something with this value, and I created a training program for children called Polishing the Diamonds. I included unusual courses like building your self-esteem, time management, goal setting, and other life skill courses. I used my own children as test cases, and we made improvements as we went along. I also created a training program for parents. When I first started Polishing the Diamonds, a lot of people did not buy the idea behind it. Apparently, we Nigerians have the best parenting experience. We believe that parenting came naturally to us. So expecting a Nigerian parent to attend a parenting class and even pay for it was expecting so much. And why teach children such courses when they should be learning English or math? But they forget that parenting is a skill and not a talent, and children need life skills to develop into successful adults. I learned from this that when you are faced with a challenge, ride it. All you have to do is to develop a strong belief in yourself and in your vision, and do not let anyone project their fears and insecurities on you. Well, I was advised to go into buying and selling of goods from Dubai. I did try buying and selling. I remember traveling to Dubai to bring in children's clothes for sale, but that didn't work out. In fact, I lost my capital, and people were shocked that an Igbo woman did not succeed. And this was because people from the southeast part of Nigeria, precisely the Igbo, where I come from, are perceived to be very good traders. But we are all wired differently. I know a lot of Igbo people that are excelling in different sectors of the economy that is not trading. And this is not to say that trading is bad, no. But expecting someone to tell her profession to suit a geographical profile is not right. Well, I am happy to say that polishing the diamonds have been running for 7 years. It did not only introduce us to people who believed in what we're doing, they also provided funds. So within the first year of registering Polishing the Diamonds, we ran the first radio talk show program on parenting in Abuja. And this is what gave me the faith and motivation to pursue my dream career, which is documentary. My experience taught me that taking a chance in life is what you owe yourself. You may succeed or fail. Don't be afraid of failing, because without failing at something, you may not succeed in something. And don't be afraid to do hard things and daring to be different. No experience, positive or negative, is a waste. It's no wonder that I chose documentary filmmaking as a career. Even before I took my first shot, people in my circle had known me as a documentary filmmaker, although they would have preferred other genre of filmmaking they thought was more profitable. As you know, we have different genres of filmmaking, like the drama, the comedy, the war films, the horror films, and others. Nollywood, which represents the Nigeria film industry, has embraced other kinds of filmmaking more than the documentary. I have come to realize that taking up documentary filmmaking as a career, even as a hobby, in this part of the world is not easy. Because it is not mainstream, people think it is not financially rewarding, and it may seem as though they are right. For example, in Nigeria, we have about 3 major film distributors, and none of them distributes documentary film. Secondly, we have one documentary-only film festival in Nigeria and in sub-Saharan Africa called the IREP Film Festival. So you may say, it doesn't work in this part of the world, but I see a big opportunity and a huge market, only if we can begin to dig deep and embrace our unique heritage. For some reason, I think this generation is reluctant to place value on stories about our culture, our tradition, our customs, and history. Instead of embracing our culture, we make a mockery of it and view it as diabolic and archaic. It has gotten so bad that recently, few ignorant people in the Igbo society started burning and destroying our traditional deities and statues that should be preserved for the next generation or even commercialized. In fact, we don't own our history anymore. We don't own our artifacts anymore. They could be found at the British Museum, the French Museum, or any other place aside from the African soil. In the midst of these distractions, we are unlearning how to tell our stories. And why do I say so? Africa has a deep-rooted cultural and rich heritage. Everywhere you go, in our villages, in our towns, in our cities, there are stories to tell. We are yet to tell stories about the African religion and spirituality. We are here to tell stories about the slave trade and colonialism. We are here to tell stories about the Igbo spirituality. We are here to tell stories about our hair, our food, our masquerades, our way of dressing. In the southeast of Nigeria, we have about 10 traditional festivals, like the Mount Festival, the New Yam Festival, the Ofala Festival. In the southwest, we have the Eyo Festival. In the north, we have the Doba Festival. We are yet to project these stories to the world. I and my team are working on a historical documentary about the Igbo people and their history. It is titled, Who Are the Igbo? Understanding an Extraordinary Race. Do you know we have about 32 million Igbo people living all over the world? So imagine when we are done with the production of this documentary and we decide to target just 5% of this market. That is huge. Let me share an idea with you. Do you know what will happen if you decide, for instance, to produce a documentary about the Igbo traditional musical instruments, like the ogene, the oja, the udu, the ekwe, the ikoro, the eba? These instruments have history. You will not only be exporting our kind of music, you'll be providing information, education, and entertainment to your audience, as well as generate income. You know what? Creativity is what you make of it, and documentary filmmaking is the future, because there are stories everywhere. Pay attention to this. According to the Nigeria Communications Commission, we have about 98 million Nigerians on the internet. 50% of these people are on Facebook, about 25% are on Instagram, and about 22% are constantly watch the YouTube. What are these people doing? They are telling their stories, documenting their lives without even realizing it. And you know, people are drawn to real human stories. So imagine if you decide to make it a career or even a hobby and decide to take and you decide to tell real human stories. You can craft a story around yourself. You can craft a story around your grandparents, or that deity in your father's compound, or that hospital in your community. It's your choice. The good news is that you have a waiting audience. You can choose to call it photography documentary, poetic documentary. My recent documentary, Afia Attack, it's an example of untold stories tucked somewhere in our history. Afia Attack is the first historical documentary about the role of women in the Nigeria-Biafra Civil War. It is a story of bravery, of lost hopes, of betrayal of women who sacrificed their lives to provide essential commodities for the survival of Biafra. Afia Attack has screened in about 4 continents and has won several international awards and recognitions. Aside from the financial rewards, it has generated conversations about the role of women in Nigeria and the need for us to always embrace dialogue instead of war. The same way I am telling these stories, I know of other young people that are doing great things in documentary filmmaking. They have discovered the opportunities in documentary. They are telling compelling stories about our culture and our history. Recently, 2 young men, Chikezie Ifediobi and Kosi, produced Ikondo. Ikondo is a documentary about the palm wine, our palm wine. Prior to this, Chikezie produced A Timeline in the Den, which is a documentary about the first indigenous university in Nigeria, that is the University of Nigeria. Onyeka produced a documentary on Flora Nwapa. The House of Nwapa has done so well globally. These young filmmakers are daring to do extraordinary things. Unfortunately, technology has empowered you to tell a story the way you want to tell it. You can decide to produce a documentary today and organize screenings in your home or in your community and charge for it. You can decide to go into content creation for TV stations like the DSTV or VODs like the Amazon, the Linda Ikeji TV, the Vimeo, the Netflix, or even upload on YouTube. You can even create your own distribution channel. You can choose to go into commissioned documentaries. I have produced commissioned documentaries for some states in Nigeria and companies. People, government, companies need visibility. And the beauty of this is that you can achieve some of these things with your phone. So there are endless opportunities in documentary filmmaking. The African consciousness is rising, and never has it been more important than now that you go into the business of telling our stories through the lenses of documentary, instead of destroying and devaluing our culture. Why don't we become documentarians and culture ambassadors? So the next time you go to your village, film your grandparents, ask them questions about your ancestors and your history. The next time you attend that cultural event, take permission from the organizers and create a story out of it. Be curious, ask questions, be imaginative, and start making that film. Thank you.